Ready to start. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sue Reckoff, and I'm president of the Historical Society of University City. We want to thank you so much for being here tonight. This is our 9th State of the City event, and we usually hold these every year right around the time of our city founder, Edward Gardner Lewis's birthday. He was our first mayor, and he founded the city 114 years ago, so it's been a while. Like all communities, we've faced all sorts of challenges over the last 114 years. But we've also had opportunities, and we've had a lot of successes. All in all, we think that Mr. Lewis would be pretty proud of his city today. Tonight, we're happy to have Mayor Terry Crow with us and City Manager Gregory Rose to talk about today's challenges and the opportunities that are ahead for U City. There'll be a little time later for questions if you have them, and we hope you'll stay around. We are celebrating Mr. Lewis's 151st birthday, and we have birthday cake and lemonade. So first up tonight is Mr. Rose.
So happy birthday, Mr. Lewis. It goes without saying that it really takes the dreamer to imagine building a city when nothing exists there. And I think all of us owe him a great deal of gratitude. There are several special guests in the audience tonight, and I know that the mayor will be recognizing many of you. But I did want to take this opportunity to recognize a very long-time city manager here in University City, Frank Ohlendorf. Frank has been my friend and mentor for many years, longer than what I will mention, but very grateful for his friendship and mentoring. Before I get started, there are several members from the executive management team that are here, and one of our deputy fire chiefs, Mr. Picano, that I would just ask to stand and be recognized. They all work very hard, and so I am very thankful for them and want to publicly recognize them. And this is our city attorney, John Mulligan, who is here with us as well. So what's been happening in University City? At the end of my presentation to you in 2019, I shared how President Lyndon Baines Johnson's 1964 commencement speech delivered at the University of Michigan revealed his vision of a great society, a society that is rooted in prosperity and equality and liberty for all, and how that speech inspires me today. But before we can have a great society, we must have great cities. University City is a great city that the Mayor and Council are committed to making better. A city being reimagined through an increased focus on public safety, economic development, delivering high-quality services, and being true to the values that reflect how we will conduct ourselves as your public servants. Public safety continues to be a cornerstone of services we provide. We know our crime is trending down, but we need to ensure that as our economy fluctuates between expanding and contracting, our crime rate continues its downward trend. When reviewing statistics, the most severe crimes in 2017, such as larceny, auto thefts, and other Part 1 crimes total 1,379. In 2019, those Part 1 crimes total 1,220, roughly a 13% reduction. To continue this downward trend, Chief Hampton is leading efforts to examine tools that can aid the police department in being efficient, effective, and reduce the need to place our officers in harm's way. In 2019, we expanded our drone program to the police department. Now more than 4 officers are trained to operate our drones during the day and at night. And each officer has received more than 100 hours of training. We are leading the region in this area, being the first city to receive a license for night flight. The drones enhance our police operations by enabling officers to use this tool to more rapidly cover ground when locating a missing child, surveillance of illegal drug activity, and crowd monitoring. We pray that we never have to use drones during an active shooter incident, but it's good to know that our police officers are trained to do so. According to Police Chief Magazine, 347 law enforcement agencies in 43 U.S. states use drones to enhance police operations. In addition to drones, we established a partnership with Ring that will soon roll out. The program will encourage neighbors to communicate among each other and with police officers to prevent crime from occurring. There's going to be more to come on that later. One final improvement I would like to mention for police is the installation of police vehicle dash cameras. These cameras enable our officers to record what's happening as they are patrolling and during traffic stops. It provides a greater protection of our officers and our citizens when they are patrolling and gives an unbiased account of activity that occurred on the scene. Today, all but 2 of our patrol vehicles are equipped with dash cameras, and those 2 will be equipped soon. I mentioned to you that we expanded the drone program into police operations. It was actually the fire department that started with drones first. But what was most notable about fire in 2019? Well, let me tell you. On August the 3rd at 7 a.m., on a very hot day, our ambulances began to roll. The mayor and council had previously authorized adding 12 new paramedic firefighters so that we could return providing ambulance services. In addition to restarting our ambulance service, we also returned the fire marshal position to the fire department. This position is responsible for ensuring that the plans we approve for building construction or renovation has all the fire safety needed, and we can access the facilities with our fire trucks in emergency situations. How many of you pay for homeowners insurance? In 2019, the fire department started to evaluate how could we reduce our ISO rating. Now, why is our ISO rating important to you? Because it's one of the variables that determines the cost of your homeowner's insurance. In 2019, our ISO rating went from 4 to 3. The ISO rating, the range is from 1 to 9. With the lower you are, the better. Because he has told me, Chief Henson, that he is never satisfied, I know that he is pursuing a 2 rating this year. Both, that is worth clapping for. Both Chief Henson and Chief Hampton are to be commended for improving their operations last year, and we certainly all look forward to the improvements and innovations that are in store for 2020. Economic development is a top priority for our mayor and council. University City was built as a bedroom community, dependent on property taxes to provide services to its residents. However, the Hancock Amendment limits the increase in revenue a community can receive in property taxes and encourages communities, either intentionally or unintentionally, to rely more heavily on sales taxes to fund services. When you combine the Hancock Amendment with the never-ending assault on the pool tax structure or shared sales tax, it's clear University City must diversify its local economy. To that end, on June the 13th of 2019, the mayor and council approved a redevelopment agreement with Novus Development to redevelop 50 acres near Olive and I-170. Yes, there were some problems reaching an agreement, but when fully realized, University Place will provide University City with $15 million to fund improvements in areas such as housing, street repairs, street lighting, and enhanced public safety in the 3rd Ward and along Olive Boulevard. In addition to the $15 million, we estimate the city will receive another $17 million for funding for parks, stormwater, and economic development. The project has many hurdles to cross, but we are all rooting for John Brown and his team at Novus Development as they work to make University Place a reality. Although University Place gets most of the headlines, there are other developments that are occurring in University City. Did you know a True Hotel is slated for downtown? TriStar Development purchased the old Del Mar Harvard Elementary School parcel and is planning a major development on the site. The proposed development is anchored by a hotel and will include shared workspace. In addition to the True Hotel, another proposed development at Del Mar and I-170 includes a hotel, multifamily residence, and a restaurant. I know the mayor and council are excited about having visitors being able to stay in a hotel in University City. Diversifying University City's economy will continue to be a focus for years to come. As part of the FY 2019 budget, the mayor and council approved establishing an economic development strategy for University City. In December of 2019, I-5 consulting firm was hired to assist council, the community, and staff with creating a strategy. If you have not attended a meeting, you still have time to do so. Those meetings are posted on our website. Delivering better services to our residents is another top priority for our mayor and council. In May of last year, I was authorized to contract with ETC Institute to perform a citizen satisfaction survey. Communications Director Allison Bamberger, who is here with us tonight, led our initiative to survey residents and to learn firsthand their opinion of the level of service we provide in areas ranging from street repairs to public safety. I know the survey was long, so I want to personally thank the 603 residents that took the time out to complete the survey and to return it. Through the survey, we learned 72% of our residents who were surveyed and had an opinion indicated the overall quality of services provided by the city is excellent or good. That is higher than the Missouri-Kansas benchmark average of 42% and the national average of 48%. Overall, citizens believe we're doing a good job, but we still have work to do in the areas of code enforcement and street repairs. As a result of the survey, the mayor and council approved increasing funding for street repairs and added an additional code enforcement officer position. In the FY 2021 annual operating budget, I will recommend additional funding for street and sidewalk repairs, tree pruning, and code enforcement. Our objective is not just to meet the expectations established by the citizens. It is to far exceed those expectations. And I can tell you that we are all committed to that end. I want to commend all of our employees for the hard work and dedication that they have. A special recognition is warranted for Jenny Wendt. Jenny Wendt was selected by her peers as the Employee of the Year for advancing mayor and council's priority of being a sustainable city. Last year, we purchased 5 electric vehicles, hosted an electronic recycling event, and started energy efficiency projects at City Hall. For those of you who were walking in that went through the basement in particular, it was lit up with LED lighting, which is much more efficient and lasts longer. I want to publicly thank Jenny for her efforts in advancing council's initiative. Integrity, customer service, accountable, respect, and employees. I care. These are the values that guide the behavior of the employees that make up our organization. We never forget that we're privileged to serve the residents of University City, and I commit that we will perform at the best of our abilities. In February of 2019, the Mayor and Council demonstrated their commitment to our values by approving the adjustments recommended in the classification and compensation study. The comp study, as it is commonly referred to, indicated that we were well below the market in compensating our police officers, paramedics, and several other employee groups. Thanks to the Mayor and Council, we are better positioned to retain our good employees and compete in the marketplace for the best and the brightest candidates. Our employees enable us to provide you with high-quality services. They work very hard, and I am very proud to lead them. The city finances are in good shape. Our general fund, which funds the bulk of our city services, has a healthy fund reserve in excess of 30% of expenditures. Our employee, non-uniform, and uniform pension plans are financially sound, being funded at 79.61% and 71.83%, respectively, at the end of last fiscal year. Although the pension plans are in good shape, we will need to continue to follow the recommendations for contributions from our actuarial studies and move towards an 80% funding for. We want to maintain a healthy financial position in all of our city funds. So this year, I'm asking the Mayor and Council to review the solid waste fund to determine what is the appropriate funding level. Our solid waste fund, our operations, our trash collections, should operate like a business. So we will need to ensure that our business practices are sound. We have closed out 2019, and our eyes are keenly focused on the events and activities of 2020. As I present to you tonight, we have staff preparing contingency plans should our operations be impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. We have ordered masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, and we are preparing for large numbers of our employees to work from home if needed. We will always be there to ensure that you are safe and that we are there to assist you in case of an emergency. If you have questions about how to best protect yourself from the virus, please go to our website. We have a link to the CDC, which will provide you with very good information. High-quality housing is another priority for the Mayor and Council. Many of our residents live in housing that could use, well, some TLC, or they live in a rental property because they can't afford the cost of a single-family home. We need to find a way to make renovations affordable for all, and we must create a pathway to home ownership for those that desire it. To better understand these challenges and to develop strategies for addressing them, I will recommend the Mayor and Council create a housing committee to work with staff and advise them on an effective housing program and what our priorities should be. Finally, I will end where I began. University City is being reimagined. And this year, the Council has authorized us to facilitate the update of the comprehensive plan, which will include a visioning process. Once it's started, I would encourage each of you to participate. It really presents an opportunity for each of us to dream. I want to thank the Historical Society for allowing me to speak to you and to the people at home in order to share just a few of our accomplishments. Before turning things over to our main speaker and the leader of our community, the mayor, the Honorable Terry Crow, I want to leave you with a quote from Harriet Tubman. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and to change the world. Thank you.
Well, first off, thank you for having us one more time. It seems the tradition continues, and we didn't say anything too bad last year that the tradition continues and we didn't get the axe. I am glad to, I'd like to tell you though, just so you know, we now have a larger audience here than we have at city council meetings. So very glad to have you here. Very glad to have you here. We would like to say that a lot of people are watching us live streaming. I don't know how many tonight, but I'm not sure who wants to sit at home and watch us in city council meetings either, but we're always glad when people take advantage of that. I do want to introduce my colleagues from the City Council who are here tonight and let you know that we do have a quorum once again. We've got a good string going here. But before I do my colleagues, I would like to take just a minute, and I know that you guys know her probably better than I do, but to make sure that we recognize Dory Miller, who was our city clerk for many, many, many years, and thank you for being with us again tonight. Thank you for your service to our community. And we're also joined by many of my colleagues. I know I've got Stacy Clay over here, city council member right there. And I've got Jeff Hales is right there from the First Ward. Steve McMahon, I saw you Steve McMahon in the back. Tim Kusick from the Second Ward. And Paulette Carr as well. And I think many of you know that Paulette has been on the city council now for 2 terms. And prior to that was incredibly involved in our community. And she has now decided that it's time for she and Jim to write a new chapter in that book. And I would like to say, I know I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues on the council, that no one works harder, no one cares more, no one does more research than Paulette Carr. And thank you very much for your service. Thank you. So unlike Gregory, I kind of go off the cuff here, so I'm hoping that I don't have any miscues that go in the paper any place. But I thought as we talk about this year, it'd probably be good to step back and even remember what we were going through a little bit last year. And part of 2019, we've really got we've got to give this frame of reference. And I think the frame of reference has, first one would be just 2 words, and it would be better together. We spent a lot of time, resources, energy, staff time, council members' time, lawyers' time on Better Together. Now, it forced a discussion that we probably all needed to have as a community. We'll have that conversation again, I am sure, sometime. In this particular case, it probably had a few flaws from the very beginning and clearly had some flaws in the execution. But I think this one's going to probably come back around at some point in time. I think probably most of the people in our community would say we're not as concerned about merging all of the smaller communities together as we are about how does it fit between the city of St. Louis and the county of St. Louis. I mean, really, that's pretty much the elephant in the room. So that took an awful lot of our focus last year. I really do want to make sure I say that movement, if you will, really colored a lot of conversations all night long. And then the second one that caused everybody to pause, and frankly, I think it caused a lot of you to pause, and that would be the very sad transition we had in the county executive's office. Because when the county executive is kind of out and about, and when the county council is at loggerheads with them, and then you've got indictments that are coming down the whole bit, you really do pause. And you'll recall that we were going through the Olive and 170 Tax Increment Financing Commission at that time, and I will tell you that was not fun. Let me just make sure I tell you that was not fun. I think that also caused probably a lot of folks to look more closely at why people go into public service. Should they go into public service? What happens when they do wrong things? What are the checks and balances that we need to have? And I think that probably was a part of a lot of what happened last year as well. The city manager mentioned the ambulances. I will say to you, there was no larger crowd in this council chamber than when that decision was made a long time ago. And I'm so pleased with the fire chief and with Matt for getting the grant, the city manager, that we brought the ambulances back. And not only did we bring them back, but we have mutual aid once again with all of our neighboring communities. And I think that's, I think that's incredible for us and for them. And, you know, one of these days we're going to figure out who does more coming in and coming out of all these different communities, but I'm glad that we are in this together. And then the other one I would say, and I actually think this was one I hope that you agree that we did okay on. I think when I stood up here last year, I said one of my main goals would be for the workings of the council and our dialogues not to be front page news or any place in the Post-Dispatch or on TV. And unless I'm missing it, we're doing okay on that one. And I hope that's the case. And if we're not, I also hope that you will tell me that we're not. But one of our goals has been for everybody to be able to sit back and relax a little bit and do some other things. And I jokingly say that about the audience that we have here tonight, because the audiences that we have on Monday night are not quite as large as they used to be. And I sort of take that maybe as a, we don't need to be there, we're okay. But I also want to make sure you know that you are always welcome to not only be at the city council meetings, but to participate in that dialogue. Gregory talked a little bit about Olive and 170. You know, Olive and 170 takes a lot of time too. This is that impatient period for us. I think I would say for those, whether you supported it or not, the part of it is if you're going to do this thing, let's get it done. And now we're in that waiting period where the developer needs to get their financing put together. And I think everybody would like for it to all come together. We'd all like to be moving forward, but this is something that right now is beyond our control. No one wants that to move more quickly than the people whose homes are affected. I understand that, but we also have to realize that this is 52 acres. This is huge. I'll also tell you that Costco has been great to work with. They're just as excited today to be here as they were when we started this process. And that is great. And that is, by the way, a phenomenal company. If you get a chance to research them, that is a phenomenal company to learn about. Gregory also mentioned a little bit about Del Mar and 170. I think the old Delcrest office building, as he said, is going to be, it's already been sold and is in a developer's hand to now do hotel, apartments, and retail. I think that's probably just the tip of the iceberg for that particular intersection. I think you're going to see development to the west across 170. I think, you know, we've kind of got to talk about an awful lot of things here when we talk about developments like that. We have to recognize that interest rates being this low makes it a little bit more attractive, cuts down a little bit of the risk. Being next to 170 is incredible. It's one of we'll be 10 minutes from the airport to our first hotel out there, so that's pretty good. And the other thing we have to sort of take with that double-edged sword is Clayton is only going up. They're going straight up. And people who want to work in Clayton and be close by, we're as close as it gets. We literally are as close as it gets. And the interesting thing, I think you may have seen this in the paper the other day, the population of our neighbor to the south, Clayton, 5 days a week goes up by 50,000 people. Those 50,000 people are eating, they are shopping, they are driving around, and I think that we are well situated, particularly at that intersection, to take advantage of their growth and have it be our growth as well. Gregory also mentioned Del Mar Harvard. We've also got the old Hawthorne School and Kingsland Walk. For those of you, I've been on council way too long, because I remember the first time we tried Kingsland Walk, and that dog did not hunt. It did not hunt for the longest time. I am so glad to see that thing coming up out of the ground. It took a long time on that one, but I'm glad that that one is coming forward. The census, please participate in the census. I think that we get an awful lot of grant money in University City, and a lot of that is based on census tract information. So the city manager and his staff are working with the Census Bureau to make sure that we get everybody counted as we possibly can. I want to talk a little bit about two of the bigger things that people always want to talk about. We can pick the trolley or WashU. It doesn't matter which one, but I'll start with the trolley. The trolley is one of those things, I think if we all said we got a chance to have a redo, we'd probably do a redo on that one. But the bad thing is we don't get to do a redo. We don't get to do a redo on that one. So I think the opinions on the trolley would probably vary by row and seat by seat. From people who would say we should dip into whatever money we need to make it run full and give it a whirl, to the people who say don't give them another dime and pull it out tomorrow. We go the whole spectrum. We really do. When Gregory and I have talked about this, I think at least one of our opinions is, we want to see what happens next. The problem I have, and I'll be very candid with you when you say pull them out tomorrow, is some of our businesses didn't make it the first time during construction, and I'm not sure they're going to make it during deconstruction. Deconstruction is not going to be easy. It's not easy. And we are talking about people's livelihoods, but we also recognize something's probably going to change. I'm kind of in the uncomfortable position of not only being mayor, but also by the organizational documents of the Loop Transportation District. I'm on the board of the Loop TDD, which is the taxing district. I happen to be on the board with the mayor of St. Louis, the county executive, Joe Edwards, and Talby Roach, the head of Bi-State. So I probably have one of the smaller pots, if you will. But I also would say that we have 4 blocks of the trolley, 4 blocks. And the city of St. Louis has over 2 miles. But we probably have 4 of the most critical blocks, clearly. But it's a little bit interesting because most of the conversations clearly occur between the mayor of St. Louis and the county executive. And so it's kind of interesting to watch this dynamic as we move through the trolley. So I lay that out for you because I really do hope that you will talk to your council members or to me about what your thoughts are on it, because I think we're all in this together to see what we do next with the trolley. The next one is Washington University. So I see Siri sitting here, and this time last year, you may recall that we had a little party in Ames Place on Mardi Gras. We had 500 WashU students who decided to take over Kingsland and Kingsbury before they went down to Mardi Gras and Soulard, 500. And that was a weekend when every police officer in University City was called to that neighborhood to break up a party for kids who don't pay any taxes nor their institution to our community. So all the rest of us went without protection while the police did their job. And by the way, they did a great job. I think that Councilmember Hales was apoplectic that morning when he was down there at the party trying to figure out what to do. But I will tell you, thanks to the neighbors, thanks to Councilmember Hales, thanks to the police department, and to WashU, you didn't hear anything about Mardi Gras this year. That when I drove through the neighborhood, there were more police officers and security officers than there were students. It was as quiet as a mouse. Thank goodness. And I say that a little bit jokingly because the rest of the time, are we concerned about WashU? Yes, we are. I think you know that the council set aside funds to hire a consultant to do a financial impact that WashU has in our community. We should be getting that report back actually in the next few months. So once we have that out and we've had a chance to discern it, I'm sure we'll be sharing that with everybody. And I say that almost as a commercial too. We are having a summer planning session probably, I want to say June or July, I can't remember. We got some possible dates out. But I would tell you, everybody's welcome to come to that. I think they're kind of fun for us because we're exchanging ideas. They may not be as exciting for the people who come to watch, but I would tell you that we welcome everybody to be there, and they'll give us a little bit more of an opportunity to see what the WashU impact then is to our community. I also want to just take a minute about the police station. I think everyone knows that our police are in a temporary facility, a pretty nice temporary facility, but nonetheless a temporary facility. One that we paid a great deal of money for when we needed, front-loaded would be what I would call it, when we needed to move the police out of the annex. Instead of just taking care of the police, the city manager asked us to allocate funds for a space analysis for all of the departments to see who's got more, who's growing, who's not growing, where we need folks. So that actual study comes back to us again in the next few months. So I think you'll be seeing council presented with some options by the city manager and his staff on what we need to be doing for not only the police department, but for the rest of our staff as well. And again, we welcome your input in that discussion. Please remember that we have set aside a significant amount of money, several $1 million, to help with whatever decision is made for the police department as well. And as we talked about the development that is occurring around our community, I'm assuming you guys drive around University City as much as I do. And I will say that at times I get frustrated, and I get frustrated because of the condition of some of our sidewalks and our streets. And as I have talked to Gregory and my colleagues before, I think it's probably time for us to take a look at that again. And the reason I say that is he talked about us putting more money into streets and sidewalks, but we really are making up for several years of deferred maintenance. You will recall, and this decision this isn't a casting of stones. This is a decision was made not to do some street maintenance when the original Prop S&P was coming forward, because that would go through. And as you will recall, Prop S&P failed. I think we need to at least have a conversation with all of you about whether or not we want to try something. And the reason I say that is because they're your streets too. You drive them as much as all of us. And we really need to have a conversation about, is it time for us to do certificates of participation? Is it time for us to talk about a bond issue for streets and sidewalks? And the reason I really do think it's important for us to talk about this is this is really almost a referendum then on the administration. And I think that's true, because you have to have faith. And if we don't want to go that route, that's fine. But I'd like us to have a dialogue about that, to see where we go going forward. The last time this subject came up, one of the reasons it came up, appropriately so, was that interest rates were low. That was the true statement. And interest rates are even lower now. They don't get much lower than they currently are. And I'm not ever into going into debt unnecessarily, but I think we owe it to ourselves to have a conversation about, do we want to keep moving it along with the amount of money we allocate per year, or do we want to take advantage of the markets that are out there and go ahead and try either certificates of participation or a bond issue? And again, that's something I know that my colleagues will want to talk about. I think we've sort of talked about it in general terms. I think we'll probably become a little bit more concrete and just see where we land in conversations, frankly, with all of you. As I close out, I think Gregory said when he talked about Jenny Went and our employees, I just want to make sure, and I think all the people, particularly in this room, our employees take great pride in what they do. Whether they are laying salt, whether they are snow plowing, whether they are getting you out of a second story home in an ambulance, whether they are getting your permits, or whether they're inspecting your house. And we could not run the city at all without the dedication of our employees. And so I hope to all the directors that are here, you will share the compliments, not only from the city manager, but from the mayor and council for a job well done. Thank you very much for your service to our community. And I am happy to answer questions, or if they are difficult, I can just move my hand this way, and I think Gregory will come up and he will save me. So, yes. I think it does. By the way, the question was about economic development and the loop, in the loop in particular. The loop, and by the way, I would say, and my colleagues are here, so anyone can chime. We're not always on the same page about this. Our planning session, we probably took 2.5 hours talking about the loop and the loop special business district. I think a couple of challenges in the loop are, candidly, that it is very mature. It is mature in the fact that the rents have now hit pretty significant numbers. And it is hard when you can cross Skinker and get rents for $10 or $15 less a square foot. So we have the good news of maybe that the eastern border is getting stronger, but the flip side of it is the rents there are cheaper. And so you've got that number one. Number two, I think you're going to find pretty clearly that the people have been worried a lot about the Cicero space. A Cicero space is going to be filled pretty soon, so that should happen. I hope I didn't just jinx it, but should be filled pretty soon. But that's one of many vacancies. You know, one of the challenges in the loop has also always been that we've tried to keep. I say we, it's sort of been kept as eclectic. eclectic. And so I think that is a delicate balance between that and the Starbucks, if you will, and the noodle companies and things like that. I think you'll also see that in our particular case, we have authorized funding for a new executive director position. Am I calling that? Is that the right phrase? That's not the right phrase. A coordinator for the for the Loop, and I think that person will work along with Libby Tucker in economic development to help. Is it still challenging? Absolutely. Did people not make it through with Loop with trolley construction? Absolutely. The weird thing is, I went down for dinner. This is Thursday, so I went down earlier this week, and I was so pleased. I had dinner at Three Kings, and Three Kings had every table full. So it is kind of interesting to watch. I go to Salt and Smoke pretty often, and in the restaurant business, when you turn, they did 2 turns on a weeknight, which I think is incredible. That doesn't at all still address the issue of we have too many vacancies. And frankly, we own a building in the Loop, right by the parking garage, and it needs to be filled too. So we are working on that. And any advice or counsel you have or anyone else has, we would greatly appreciate. So, anyone else? Yes, sir. Okay. I'll get it. I'll slightly editorial panhandling in the Loop, panhandlers in the Loop. We walk a pretty fine line on that one. You may remember that for a while we had folks that were coming and particularly right outside Fitz's were using the trolley stop as a public forum, because it is a public forum, and were shouting horrible religious things to families and children as they waited for the root beer at Fitz's. So we then put in a non-amplification. You had to get a permit for amplification. We then moved forward with having the comment that the police enforce an ordinance that is on our book that everybody needs to keep moving. And that included the street musicians. And by the way, that did not make the street musicians happy, and that didn't make some of the folks at WashU Law School happy either. So it's kind of an interesting balance that we have. I will tell you again, if you're down there every night, you've got me topped on this. I have not had a panhandler come up to me in quite some time, but then I'm looking at the gentleman in front of you too, who's nodding his head. I think that just by you mentioning that, I'm sure that the city manager has noted that if it's in the evenings in particular, then we'll need to work on that. We've been probably spending a little bit more time on balancing the needs of both the folks who, as you know, University City has a pretty rich tradition of allowing protests and free speech, and I think we want to keep that. I think we've always wanted to keep that. Yet I think we've been a little bit concerned at the hate speech that has been going on in the Loop, and we wanted to put a stop to that. And that's been the tough road, but I thank you for bringing that to my attention, because that was something that I have not noticed lately. But I have some nodding heads in this room, so I get it. Point well made. Yes, ma'am. I don't know of any plans for the Craft Alliance building at the present time, and that's one where, too, again, that is tough for all of us because it attracted people. It's also, though, you kind of got to give them the idea of, I get the idea why they're moving. I mean, I get the idea. When you're going down by third-degree glass and Jim McKelvey's going to pretty much underwrite you, I get it. I really do get it. So, but I don't know what the plans are. I really don't. I don't. So, there's someone else, yeah. we will get you the specifics on that, and he's happy to get those for you. The question was, how long do we keep the drone footage, and what happens if you're on the drone footage but you don't want to be on the footage if you're just in the background? And if you'll get with the city manager, and I'm sure John too, we'll get the information to you. I really do get to sidestep that one because I don't know the answer to it. So we comply with all the state statutes, but we'll try to get you all the information you want. Oh, yes, sir. Motorcycles? Is that what motorcycles? Okay, okay. You know, I really thought I spent a lot of time in the loop, but evidently I don't. I'm assuming we have a noise ordinance probably someplace, but I don't know that they're above it. And you know, the one thing I would say to you is that I'm hoping, and I kind of would say that I think we are doing a pretty good job of policing the loop. It's kind of hard to catch the motorcycles whipping through unless you've got somebody right there. But normally we have police on foot right in the loop. So I'll add it to the list of things we need to work on in the loop. I didn't know about the motorcycles. Yes, sir. The loop what? Great question. The TDD, by the way, the TDD stays in existence until it votes it out. So, and I can't remember who votes it out, but there's a mechanism in it. I can get you the information, but I don't know off the top of my head. But there's a tax. There clearly is an additional sales tax paid by all businesses in the loop for the TDD. Absolutely, positively. And there have been businesses have asked us what happens. You know, one would assume that if the trolley goes away, then the tax goes away. But there's a click in there, and I just can't remember. You met Paul. There's a click in there. I can't remember what the action is that's taken to remove the tax. There's an action that is taken by someone. Do you remember? I just don't remember. The board can repeal it. The TDD board. We can get you the details, but it could be the TDD board votes to repeal it. Yeah. We had someone other. Yes, ma'am. Yes, there's a complete relocation program that we'll have for all the businesses. We made outreach to them, you know, the hard thing right now is until the land changes hands, you don't know who's going and who's staying that whole bit. The good and the flip side of it is too, there are plenty of opportunities on Olive, further down, and that's got to be. But I recognize as a business owner that may not be where I want to be. And so that's that balance that we have. That truly is that balance that we have, is that we say, look, there are all these other options for you on Olive, and then the business owner says, that's great, but that's not what I want. That's not what I'm looking for. That's going to be the hard part for all of us. Absolutely. But I know that Libby and her staff in economic development are ready to go when the development moves to that stage. So I'll get you. You're on number 3 though, so I gotta get her on number 1. Yes, ma'am. Not too much, not significantly, has there? It's part of the space needs analysis. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, has there been much conversation about the old library? And the only thing I would say is, as part of the space needs analysis, it's part of the mix. But have we had a separate conversation about it? Not much. No. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. trolley tracks, the trolley tracks. Correct. We had a conversation, we've had a conversation with the Loop Trolley Company since the beginning about the tracks and how to make them safer. We've not gotten very far with them. We've been told, I honestly don't know the number of accidents that we've had lately. I know we had a couple of citizens that were injured up front. Our headway with the Loop Trolley Company, as I recall, was education and signage was, I think, the response that we got back, which wasn't exactly what we were wanting at that time. So I don't know, by our last question, is that okay? Well, Leaf, I mean, first off, we all know that the Better Together proposal as it came forth is dead. It's dead. The structure they put forth is dead. My comment was that I think there's going to be conversations continuing about city and county. And if we put out bonds, then our bonds still have to be backed by us or by the new entity. But I think any new entity, I think a lot of us aren't going to be here whenever there's that new entity, because I think that's a long way down the path. I think it's a long way down the path. What my comment was just that I believe we continue to need to have dialogue. And I have said repeatedly, and I'm an old Edward Jones guy, that any merger between the county and the city would need to have the city take care of their bond debt first. And that could be by any number of ways that bond debt needs to be restructured. Because clearly the city bond, again, this isn't City of St. Louis's bond debt, needs to be restructured and needs to be probably whittled down by some serious discounting. But that's kind of a little bit beyond my pay grade here for tonight. To everybody, again, thank you very much for what you do for our community and how you make it a special place. And I'm going to turn it back over to Sue.
Thank you, Mayor Crow, and thank you, City Manager Rose. I hope everybody has enjoyed and learned a lot tonight, and we're ready to serve in the back if you are ready to join us for birthday cake.